and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dwight Stackhouse.
Good evening. I am soft. I am soft for my friends and for my family. Soft for my children and my grandchildren. I'm soft for my queen and my princess. I am soft, and soft people tend to love deeply. Now, I'm here to tell you a story of love, and while there are many kinds of love, I am curious to know what you will make of this one. But just know that it is real, because I have a deep, abiding, inveterate love for the place we call Detroit. Now, I need you to go with my personification as I share this love story, because this is how I remember my city once and still. She's the place that shaped me. She shaped my memories and my sense of fairness, even my senses of beauty and innocence. She was not my first kiss, but she was there when it happened. I am nostalgic about her because of how she treated me down through those formative years. Now, I have lived and visited many places on this planet. Europe, Boston, New York, countless places around the country. Been with other girls, if you will. No place has ever felt like home. None so beautiful as she, and none that treated me as well. Now think about it. Home is the place to love. When love leaves a place, that place ceases to be home. As a boy, I noticed the spiders and the sparrows. I noticed the butterflies and the hummingbirds. I would sit at spring's window in anticipation of the first robin, and at the same window in winter, eagerly awaiting the first snow. Love is like that. You notice things about your lover. Now, I am talking about a place, a love, that some of you are old enough to recall and some of you are not. But she was a place rife with beautiful things and pretty everywhere. From Mack and Bewick to West Grand Boulevard and Buchanan to my little enclave at 23rd and Butternut. And she was a grand mix of the bourgeois and the bucolic, and she was something to see. And she treated me kindly. Things would grow and bask in her sunshine, and the children would play. So much so that the laughter of children became for me right here in the city of Detroit. The laughter of children became for me a sound more beautiful than even that of the wind in the trees. Because if the children laugh, if the children play, you have a community. And oh, what a community we once had. The smell of her, from the fruit in the trees and sweet grasses to pies cooling on the windowsills. The sounds of birds and squirrels, a lovely accompaniment to the dear sound of laughing children. And I played in her clean alleys. I climbed her fragrant trees. I rolled in her sweet grasses. I remember neighbors chatting over the fence post. And I can't keep up with my keys today because I grew up in a place right here in the city of Detroit where there was no need for them. Now I'm talking about a place I remember. Now I suppose I could be called an old man, which I want to tell you is a shocking development. But this cannot be called ancient history. I remember it. Yes, I remember when Detroit was pretty everywhere. I remember the trolley cars in the Western Market and downtown. Oh, what a place it was. A fantasy, a parade. And yes, there were places where people who looked like me could not go. But I remember feeling sorry for those who denied us. That was the nature of my nurturing. You see, I was raised in a community that was not plagued, at least not noticeably, not overtly, by the evils and stupidity of racism. We played together, the children of many colors, like children do, and we had fun. We slept in the backyard and on the front porch, and trips to that grand bell of islands on Detroit's east side. Yes, you know the one, nestled in that ancient life-giving river. And it was paradise indeed. And I knew she loved me. I remember Mrs. Smiley and the Nelsons and learning what community was through their village-like oversight. Mrs. Smiley, Mama want to borrow a cup of sugar. Well, sure, baby. Is that all she needs? This was a time when they had the right, and not just the right, but the honor of disciplining me and all of the other children in the neighborhood. This was a time when children listened to the grown folks. They listened and they obeyed. There was a time when there was no terror in the streets that could match that of a disappointed father. Hear me now, I said, Father, he who was home and in the house and who brought me here to be nurtured by the lovely girl she was. There was no chance of a child talking back to an adult. This was a time of innocence when holding a girl's hand or simply having a crush on one was the stuff of dreams. The most vulgar thing I can remember was something called cooting. I see y'all know something about cooting, huh? Yes. And the wonderful toys we would make of popsicle sticks. And we would float them in the river at the curb after a cooling rain. Jumping rope and hopscotch. I was falling in love, you see. And as is so often the case, I was doing so without even knowing it. Trips to the library. We walked there. We walked everywhere. I remember those sundresses the ladies would wear and the ritual of those elegant Sunday afternoon meals. Back when school was a place of learning, not a place of terror. Then came the trauma. July 23rd, 1967. Thus began an abusive fortnight from which she would not recover. She was beaten and scarred. She was set aflame. She was so utterly devastated that she was abandoned. And she abandoned me. She could love no more. Overnight, the place I loved became a war zone, saddled with what was, for me at the time at least, the ugliest moniker I had ever heard. Something called a ghetto was born. Her heart and soul were broken, and so was mine. Never mind the guns and the tanks that were rolling through the streets. It was as if the spiders and sparrows died that day, and the leaves fell from the trees in midsummer. Detroit was once a place, at least my neighborhood was, and I'm sure your neighborhood was too, where a child could spend the day outside and have no concern with hunger. We would simply climb one of the many fruit trees, and there for the taking, apples, cherries, peaches, and pears. No queuing up at McDonald's. Now, we are afraid to send the children out to play because we cannot trust our children with the drug addicted, no matter how lovely she once was. Imagine my pain. The love of my youth, who had raised so many children, can no longer be trusted with them. Prior to this riotous cataclysm, we who were poor would entertain ourselves, the whole family in the car. I remember that 49 Ford. We would drive through the neighborhoods where we now live just to see the beauty. Now, for me, it is like discovering that my childhood sweetheart has become a drug-addicted, street-walking slut. But it is impossible for me not to remember what she was. And if I could, because of all that she once meant to me, I would save her. I would brave the drug dens and the cold indifference. I would go to where she was and rescue her. Now that may strike you strange, and I get that. I understand, given the look of the place, given what has happened to her. But know this: a town is its people. The people are the town. And look what we've done. We have forsaken the town of my affection, of my youth. And that means, of course, that we have forsaken one another. And so I'm thinking, someone is to blame. You know how it is. It has to be somebody's fault. And so I blamed me. I had left her. Went to another town, another girl, if you will. Not once, not twice, but many times. But you were here. So I blamed you. Now you know I am not making this up. We now tour the same neighborhoods just to see the wreckage, the burned out buildings, the blank look on their faces. Someone took a needle and injected into her veins the venom of despair and indifference, and in so doing created a critical mass of disenfranchised, drug and alcohol addicted miscreants who have turned my lovely girl out. Got her turning tricks. And we think it is not us. But it is, you know. These are our children. They are our neighbors. The children of our neighbors. There's no love now. But when I look at her and see the pain on her face and the scars on her skin, and I remember that smoldering history, I remember this too. She was once one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and she was mine and I was hers. We may surprise you, this pretty, forsaken girl and I, the love of my youth. This is my home. I will never deny her, for I can still see in the memories of my mind what she was. And I still hear that laughter ringing out more than I hear the guns or smell the smoke. She may not need to be decimated or institutionalized. I believe that if I hold out my hands to hers, hold her crustiness and her despair tightly, and make her know that I will not forsake her, not this time, not ever again, she may just come back to me, be bathed, be cleaned in the most powerful elixir of them all, this nearly imponderable thing we call love.
Dwight Stackhouse.